Now we're going to talk a bit more about Prince Harry, because his book means he and William will never reconcile, according to many commentators and predictions in terms of what's coming in this book, which is going to come out in next Tuesday, I think, on the front page of The Sun. Harry versus Will, gloves or orf, bitter Duke to lift lid on bus stop. A bus stop. Let's talk to Rupert Bell, who is, of course, Talk Radio's royal correspondent. Rupert, very happy New Year to you.
And the same to you, Peter.
And possibly not the happiest of New Years for Prince William.
I wouldn't think so. This is not a happy relationship now between William and Harry. Now, obviously, we don't know the content of the book, but obviously things are being drip-fed, as it were, to create the necessary publicity for it. And this is obviously the first of the sort of major salvos that were coming out over the weekend about the fact that he's very much, Harry, that is, in his book, is having swipes at his brother and their breakdown in their relationship, and talking about the fight they had in January 2020. Now, of course, at the moment, you know, quite often with these things, you get a PR blitz, but the actual, when it actually comes out, it is probably quite not as dramatic as it is being painted.
Well, Rupert, it's really interesting you mention that, because for work purposes only, not because I wanted to, I watched all 6 hours of the Netflix documentary, and there were bits and pieces there that were, I mean, there were bits that were absolutely absurd. I love the bit with, the bit where I literally kind of guffawed was when Meghan was talking about being on the plane, on the so-called freedom flight coming home, and saying that not quite the captain, but someone, whether I wonder sometimes slightly whether this person actually existed or not, who sat down beside her, took off his cap and said, "Ma'am, you know, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for our country." And then she said, "You know, finally someone understood the sacrifice." I'm just like, the sacrifice of sitting in first class. I mean, James Healy sitting opposite me is laughing here. I mean, it was ludicrous. But in terms of revelations, there were bits and pieces, and he's certainly Harry talked about, you know, being shouted at by his brother and all the rest of it. But it wasn't revelation heavy, was it?
No, obviously the main things is he accused William of you know, shouting at him and all that, and his father lying, and his grandmother just sitting passively watching on.
I love how the Queen, in his estimation, has gone from this sort of all-powerful, all-seeing, all-knowing person who's as sharp as a tack even in her later years, and before she very sadly left us, and then suddenly, when it comes to not doing what Harry wants to do, she sort of sits there mute, as if she's being manipulated by her son and grandson.
Absolutely, and this is part of the problem. And of course, since that documentary, the royal family have tried to maintain a dignified silence, they would put it, and not respond to any of the claims that Harry and Meghan were making in that documentary. You're quite right, it was 6 hours. It could have been 2 hours, maybe even less, but because it was just a sort of, you know, in many ways, it felt a bit of a whinge fest more than anything.
Certainly did.
And now this book, you know, clearly he has got a very good author writing it, who wrote Andre Agus's autobiography, which was very well received, J.R. Moehringer. He's a much respected author, so he's gone to the very top to get somebody who knows how to ghostwrite these kind of books. So you've got to take that on board, that this guy knows the time of day. So hopefully, from their perspective, it will have something that will enlighten and share. But clearly the main thing is the spare in the title is basically going to be about his relationship with William, because he is the number 2 and has been all his life, and he's not been able to cope with it. Now, you read some of the things that are coming out that, you know, he's always been troubled. Well, there are times when he actually seemed a reasonably contented person. He seemed to have a very good relationship, and we've seen interviews with him and William that they actually look as if they are getting on.
I don't know about you,
Rupert. This is the problem with it.
I don't know about you, but I like the old Harry. I like the Harry who was the army veteran, the brave soldier. I like the guy who did the mental health campaigning and the royal duties and just kind of got on with it. And yes, the sort of post-Meghan Harry, I don't like him very much at all.
No, and this is where I think the influence of her is there for all to see.
Although he said in the documentary he was sort of on that journey already, you know, it's kind of...
yes, I think, you know, he is on this journey, has taken a big change. You know, when they came onto the scene, Harry and Meghan as a couple, They were much embraced by the royal family, indeed by William and Kate. And clearly, though, in their eyes, some things did unravel. But it was all a bit sort of wishy-washy, that unraveling in many people's eyes. There's nothing concrete. Now,
recollections may vary.
And then maybe this book will add some meat to the allegations that they've been making. And that will perhaps be the interesting thing, if that is the case. Now, he's doing... I believe Harry is a couple of TV interviews before it comes out. One for ITV with Tom Bradby, and then another one with Anderson Cooper that's going to go out in the States. And there may be an article in a newspaper that he's doing as well. So there will be some PR from Harry's perspective. But as I say, if those interviews are going to be happening, the people doing the interviews have to do them properly, which is ask the right question.
It can't just be...
It can't be a one-way street.
Absolutely.
Because what is the point of it? Because that's all we've had so far. So maybe this is the one opportunity. And Tom Bradby is a former royal correspondent, knows both William and Harry, and is a respected journalist. Then surely, for his reputational stake, he should make sure...
He's got to probe things, absolutely. Well, we will watch with interest, no doubt. Rupert Bell, thank you very much indeed, Talk Radio's royal correspondent.